How's everybody doing? And welcome back to New York 1-to-1. It has been a while, but in today's episode, we're going to be building and talking about the history of the Queensboro Plaza subway station in Long Island City in Queens, New York. And then later on the live play, which I recorded weeks ago at this point, we're going to take a look at the station in depth and also talk about a little bit more about what we're going to be doing in Queens to keep building out this series. And the first thing that I just can't not talk about is this double-decker station that has been built. I'm sure the thumbnail shows it prominently, and I've always wanted to make a double-decker station. I never actually knew if it was possible or not, and it is. We will show in the live play it works. There are trains stopping at both sides of both the upper and lower deck of the subway station. I don't know how it works, but it works. But of course, why does it need to work? Why is there a double-decker subway station at the foot of a bridge in Queens, New York? Let's talk about it a little bit. So the Queensboro Plaza station, and not to be confused with Queens Plaza, which is a separate underground, not connected station like a quarter of a mile away. The Queensboro Plaza station was built in the teens and has trains that go to two locations. So you have the 7 train running on the southern tracks on both the top and the bottom levels, which is the IRT Flushing line, which connects Hudson Yards, 34th Street in Manhattan, all the way out to Flushing, Queens. The train that you would take to get to Citi Field to see the Mets. And on the northern side of the tracks, again, both top and bottom, is the now BMT Astoria line, which carries the N and W trains to Astoria, Queens, and then south into Manhattan down the Broadway line, eventually into Brooklyn. Or, well, the W goes to Whitehall to the Manhattan, and the N continues on into Brooklyn. What's crazy about this station, though, is that it wasn't originally like this. It didn't have both lettered and numbered trains, or what we would now see them as. Originally, this entire station was built to IRT standards, to what we now is the A division, or the numbered trains in the system. And the Astoria line, essentially, even though it was being run under a dual contract with BMT, they weren't able to run their trains into Manhattan because the trains wouldn't fit. So the trains that are now the lettered trains in New York, and I'm sure we've talked about this before, but the lettered trains are, even though they're all on the same size track, standard gauge track, the lettered trains are wider than the numbered trains are. And because of the different dimensions in the tunnels and the standards they were built to, they are not compatible. So lettered trains cannot go through numbered tunnels because they wouldn't fit, and numbered trains can't go through lettered tunnels, or they can, but when they would get to a station, there'd be a very unsafe gap between the train and the platform. But on an elevated system, you can fix that. So what happened here, after the city took over in the early 40s, during that decade, they went and on the Astoria line, which had been the 8 train, they went and shaved back all of the platforms so that you can now run Astoria line trains into Manhattan through the 60th Street Tunnel and onto the Broadway line. And that is why you have both lettered and numbered trains at the same station. It is the only station in the system where you can make a cross-platform transfer from a lettered train to a numbered train and vice versa. It's a station that if you live in Queens, as I do now, you use pretty regularly. It's an absolutely absurd station, and to think it even used to be worse. There actually used to be a separate northern part of the station that served the trolley tracks, or elevated train tracks essentially, that went over the Queensboro Bridge and into Manhattan. We've talked about that on a previous episode. Those tracks connected to the 2nd Avenue line. Well, the elevated one when it existed. It's no longer there. They tore it down a long time ago and have taken their sweet time replacing it with a subway. Let's talk a little bit about what you're seeing happening in the background now. So what you should have noticed is really just me trying to connect the trains to their current destinations. I still do intend to build out a little further. The Astoria line here connects and runs through the neighborhoods of Long Island City and Sunnyside and into Woodside. I don't know if I'll get quite as far as Woodside. I don't think I need to go that far. But here I am connecting it at least to the beginning of Queens Boulevard, which is this split level road you're seeing on either side of the track. I'm having to make it a little bit wider than it actually is in real life just to get the station to fit in nicely between it. But, you know, when you don't have the overlay and eventually when we fill that in, you're not going to notice at all. And I'm not really doing any of the height leveling or detailing of these crossings here. We'll talk a little bit about that in the live play. I do go into detail about the train yard that's there and how we're going to handle that going forward. But you'll continue to see me here in the background trying to get these trains to connect and trying to get these trains to work. It was a little tricky. This was definitely a situation where Move It came into play over and over and over again, which is fantastic. But a lot of this is really just proof of concept, trying to get it to work. So there you see it didn't stop. At that point, I had not yet solved getting all 4 of the stops built into there. Even with all the great mods that exist, still was a little bit tricky to do. Speaking about all the mods, well, at least adjacent to that kind of aspect of the game, is Cities Skylines 2 has been announced. I mentioned it briefly in the live play, which again, I have recorded quite a while ago now. And I really talk about how it may affect this series. Spoiler alert, nothing serious. We're going to keep chugging along. But it is really interesting to see that they're trying to get this game out this year. We'll see if they actually achieve that. And I'm really, really curious to see what it does, like what the graphics look like, what the building design look like, how comprehensive is it. We do know a little bit more now. We do know that it's based on Unity, which is the same engine that Cities Skylines 1 is based off of. Of course, it'll be based off of a newer version of it, which should hopefully be better optimized, assuming the code itself is optimized. We also, what else do we know? We've been told that the mods and assets that currently exist for Cities Skylines 1 will not be compatible with the new one, although it remains to be seen what level of effort would need to be put into, you know, say, make an asset that already exists, you know, usable in Cities Skylines 2. We'll have to see. I'm just really curious to see what kind of like mods are already built in. If they're telling you can't use the existing mods, and maybe modding, I feel like assets might be easy to transfer over, easier than a mod would be. So you have to think, you know, are mods like intersection marking tool, like traffic manager, you know, have they discussed this with the creators of those mods, you know, hopefully compensated them in some way and just, you know, built these things in and even put more development time into them to, you know, fix bugs and add features. Although so many of these mods are just so incredibly feature rich already. It's really an impressive feat of the modding community within Cities Skylines to keep doing it. And we keep getting these new releases. They keep doing new content packs and the new, was it hubs and... Is it hubs and harbors? I don't even know. I haven't really bought any DLC in a while, and I'm kind of like happy with what I have, but the fact that you still get like stuff for free on a game that's super old and is getting replaced soon and having a new version come out is awesome. So thank you as always to all the folks involved in this community who really keep it going, and I hope I can keep it going. The last thing I want to mention is that my setup now is done. I have my new desk. My microphone is perfectly mounted. Hopefully this sounds good. It's been a long day, a long week. It's been a lot going on. Work has been absolutely insane. And that's why I have not been able to get this video out. But also I feel like it's been a little bit of a mental block. I just haven't been able to get into the right headspace to do this, but we're doing it now. I need to get back into the game and do some more work in there to start recording more footage for the next video. And I'm going to hopefully start that soon, but stick around. Live play's coming up right about now. And welcome back to the live play, where we're going to take a look at this absolutely ridiculous station. It feels good again also to be recording again. This is actually the first time I've done any recording in weeks. But now that I have my, my setup, not completely final, but closer to final, it's time to get back down to it and start cranking out some more videos. And of course, what I've been working on in the background is this double-decker station. This is the Queensboro Plaza station in real life, and I'm going to back out here for just a moment to show you it actually fully functioning. And by just looking at the track view here, you can see there are 2 stops up there. And there are 2 stops on the lower level as well. And what you can actually see as we go back to this view is that there are people waiting on all the tracks. I don't know how they're getting up there. Obviously, the stairs look a little bit silly. Nothing I can really do about that. I mean, I guess I could go into PO and play around with them, but I'm worried that if I did that, I would break whatever paths the Sims are using to get to the platforms. So for now, I'm just really happy that it functions at all. That what I've gone and done next to them is for the N and W trains, the Astoria line. I would like to eventually build some of that, but for right now, I've just kind of looped it off and have the trains ending up over there. But however, for the 7 line, the Flushing line, I have extended that over what is something we'll talk about in a moment. But I've extended it out to 33rd Street and just built a couple of buildings just to get some of the traffic done around here, and actually did have a bit of fun doing some detailing. Oh, I need to ban parking on this street. You can't be parking on the white lines, although that's something that people in New York would totally do because it's mayhem out there. So just did a little bit of detailing around here, wanted to get the roads all in correctly. I feel like as I build this neighborhood out and start adding in a lot more factories, industrial kind of area around here, we'll definitely need the traffic to flow nicely. What I really wanted to get done, though, to add to this episode as well, was to build out the kind of the Sunnyside Yard, Harold interlocking area where all of the various train lines come together and lead through eventually to Penn Station in particular, but now also Grand Central Madison as well, the East Side Access project. And this is where like tons and tons of trains just get like held during the day. So LIRR has trains that get stored here, NJ Transit, Amtrak. So the Harold interlocking is the busiest one in the country, I believe. But I realized I don't really have the right railroad assets. I have these, and now that I have all the extra RAM in my system, I should be able to go and dig through I guess it's like the Railway 2 project and see if they have something that's more appropriate. I honestly believe they probably have the exact thing given how awesome that project is and the amount of variety they have. But let me go take a look at that, and I'm hoping maybe I can do that as a separate episode, or maybe something kind of casual and leisurely to do in a live stream. I am definitely going to start doing those again. Another great thing that's working right now is my NVIDIA broadcast is working again with this game without the game like really slowing down, which should make this audio a lot clearer and a lot more like what you were used to in some of the previous episodes and live streams. Broadcast is still a pretty new technology that NVIDIA is still perfecting. I did also a little bit of detailing around here, kind of just putting some more pylons underneath the tracks here. This area will definitely get built out pretty soon, I think. Putting this housing project in definitely helped to immediately bring so many citizens into the city, but there's still so much more to be done. And of course, I feel like I'm going to start getting the questions about, what happens to this city with Cities Skylines 2 having recently been announced by Paradox and Colossal. And we'll see. There's like no details about that game whatsoever yet, except that it's supposed to come out this year, which, I mean, hopefully they do it, but I'm also not holding my breath and would not be surprised if it slips, given that there's no information out about it yet. But we're going to keep cranking along on this series for sure. I feel like I keep promising it, but I definitely do want to continue to speed up my process now that I am a little bit further along in getting myself set up and back to being able to do this comfortably and in the way that I like, to give you the level of quality that we should be expecting. So once again, very happy that this double-decker station is working. Let me know down below, have you ever tried to build something like this yourselves? Did you think it was possible? And how often do you use metro stations in your cities? Do you like metros, or are you more of a tram kind of person? Let me know down below, and hopefully we'll see you again soon. Bye.